In 2000, we bought an abandoned 100-acre farm in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. We spent years cleaning it up, built a new house, and now are trying to make it a functional homestead farm. Welcome to Red Toolhouse.
Hello everyone, this is Kelly at Red Toolhouse Farm. Welcome to another episode. We are headed today to processing. We've got 12 hogs loaded and we're headed to a new processor. We're hoping to get 15 loaded, but they're a little bigger than we expected, a little chunky this time. So we've got 12 and ready to check out a new processor.
Yeah, this processor is a little bit further away distance-wise than we had in the past, but we'll gladly change distance for quality. We've heard a lot of good things, a lot of good feedback from fellow pork raisers that these guys do a good job and put together a good product. So we're on the road right now. We're also on a stretch of road that's a new highway. It's a little bouncy, so that's kind of why my jowls are flapping in the wind here. But
be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. And visit our website at redtoolhouse.com and sign up for our e-newsletter where you'll automatically be entered into our drawing for the work gloves that we've got.
Yeah, that's February's giveaway this time. You see our previous video, we show a picture of that and highlight those. But we'll be giving away those work gloves and we'll get the size of the winner, and that way we give the right size. But those are really good gloves. We enjoy them. So be sure to sign up for that as well. Today's episode is not just us driving down the road. We're going to talk about, since we're hauling pork, we're going to talk about pork. We're going to talk about how to raise pork for your homestead totally free. We'll show you how you can raise a couple hogs and have some for sale and some for your own consumption. And by selling those hogs that you've raised, you can pretty much get a break even or even make a little money on your homestead. So kind of a neat process, a neat strategy to not only provide meat for your own family, but to sell some to some neighbors or friends or family and be able to generate enough revenue from that to pay for all your expenses in raising those hogs. So that's what we'll get into.
Okay, so what we want to talk about as the core subject of this video is raising pork for yourself for free. So how can you raise pork for free, offsetting feed costs, the cost of the pig, all that. But then also you can even raise pork and make money. So you're going to get paid to raise pork. So how do you do that? Well, let's dive right into it. And I've got notes I'm going to consult, so bear with me as I go back and forth with my notes because I don't want to tell you something that's off. What we're going to do is we're going to use the example of what we've done over the years. And in fact, I'm going to use the data from this last run of pigs that we've processed. So this is going to be based off our data. Obviously, this is going to vary for you all depending on how you raise them, how much pasture you put them on. All of that's going to come into consideration there. But I'm going to use my notes because I don't want to give you guys inaccurate information. And we're also going to display it here to the right, to my right, so you can see those details there. So this may get a little dry with the data, but we'll try to make it move as quickly as possible, but also be as informative as possible. So the first thing you got to do is, where are you going to start? Well, you need to make sure you've got your infrastructure for housing hogs, of course. Now, what I would recommend is start with 3 hogs. And 3 is a magic number, and this is why, and I'll explain that. Start with 3 hogs. So where are you going to get these hogs? Well, you're going to go find a reputable farmer around that's raising hogs. You can look at heritage breed. You can look at some of the regular breeds. Start there. You can obviously still go to a livestock auction. I don't recommend that just because you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes you'll see the sickest animals get run through these auctions. Sometimes you'll find good stuff. And if you don't really know how to look for that type of stuff, you can really get stuck with something that's going to croak. And you obviously don't want to buy pigs and they'd be dead the next week. So look for a reputable farmer that can give you some good insight and has got some experience. You can actually see the hogs, see how they're raised, all that type of stuff. So 3 hogs, and you're going to buy them, of course, right after they're weaned. So weaning is variable for some people. We wean at 8 weeks. We let our piglets go to 8 weeks, as long as they're not pulling the mamas down too much and the mamas are still engaging. We've had really good luck with going about 8 weeks on that. So if you buy 3 piglets that have been weaned, they're going to be between 5 and 8 weeks old. So that's the starting point. Okay, so you got your 3 pigs. What about your infrastructure? Well, are you going to put them on pasture? Now again, some of you may not have 5 acres to put them on like we do. Some of you may just say, well, I have to keep them in a tight penned-in area. Well, that's fine. Again, it is what it is in that situation. Go with what you have and what you're available to. If you can get them on pasture, great. You're going to do less work as far as providing forage for them. If you've got them in smaller pens, then just plan on looking at a varied diet. If you end up going to the park and you start raking up all the acorns off the trees in the fall, then you're going to put them in buckets and bring them back. Then there's all kinds of different ways that you can get some variable diet there. But look at your infrastructure, make sure it's hog worthy. That's hog worthy infrastructure. We'll save that for another discussion because there's hours we could spend on what's that look like. So you got your 3 pigs, you got your infrastructure in place. So you got your 3 pigs in, they're 5 to 8 weeks old. So where do we start? How do we start calculating cost? Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to use my notes, so please excuse my phone here as my cheat sheet. So you've got your pigs. They're 5 to 8 weeks old. So what is the term? What's the length of time we want to raise those? Now we go 7 months. 7-month-old pigs are when we're ready to process. And again, that's give or take a couple weeks based upon your schedule with your processor, your transport, all those type of things. So let's just say, for the sake of this discussion, 7 months. So that's 28 weeks. If I'm doing my math right. So 28 weeks is the growth cycle of these 3 pigs that you have. So what are we going to feed? Well, starting out, what I do, now you can buy the real expensive hog grower, the pig starter, which is a really expensive feed. I actually don't do that. Again, since we're going to 8 weeks weaning, they're getting great protein, they're getting great nutrients from the sow. So I skip the hog starter. So I go straight to 16%, 60% protein, which is kind of we call it a hog starter because we're not using the 20 or the 30%, whatever it is that the actual piglet starter feed is on. So we go straight to 16%, and I buy that at the beginning of the cycle. So that's 7-month window. I buy that at the beginning, and then I switch to finisher, which is 12%. And again, your hog feed prices are going to vary, but the numbers that I crunched here were based upon our 22 hogs that we raised. We raised 22 piglets, so I based it on that. So throughout the course of that 7-month window, I bought 7,500 pounds of 16% hog feed. And that was my total cost of just over $1,000, $1,008.85 it looks like. So then when it was time to switch to 12%, I bought 19,900 pounds of 12% hog feed. And the total cost of that was $2,377.70. So that's my total feed cost. If you add those together, total of 27,400 pounds, with a grand total cost of $3,386.55. So that was my out-of-pocket of feed costs for 22 hogs for 7 months. So my average cost per hog was $153.94. And that's what's important here. Now, you may think, well, wait a minute, you're buying 22 hogs worth of feed, you're going to get a bulk discount. No, my feed store does not do bulk. If I go buy 100 pounds, it's $12 or whatever it is a bag. If I go buy 6,000 pounds, it's still the same per bag. So I don't get any bulk discounts. So these numbers are still going to be valid. Again, unless you find a feed store that gives you a sliding scale, then you could even take more advantage of this. So what I'm looking at is the average pounds per day of these hogs is 8.89 pounds. Almost 9 pounds is what it averaged out to. Obviously, when they're piglets, they're going to eat a lot less. When they're 300 or 400 pound behemoths walking around like ours were, they're going to eat a lot more. So that number that we're going to start with is $153.94 is the average cost of out-of-pocket per hog for feed. So if you've got 3 hogs, you do the math there, $153.94 added together is your cost. So that should be $461.82. Obviously, when we think of cost, we also got to think of the price of the pigs. If you go out and you buy feeder pigs, then you had to pay money for them. Right now, piglets are in the gutter. Buying pigs right now, sometimes you can go to livestock auctions and they're giving them away. But let's just say, for the sake of argument right now, we'll say $50 a pig. So you've got $150 tied up in your piglets that you've purchased. So right now, that's our out-of-pocket, $150 for 3 piglets. $461.82 for the feed for their entire life cycle, comes to $611.82. So that's your out-of-pocket expense for raising these 3 piglets. So what is, when it comes time to processing, we got to factor in processing costs. Now again, that's all over the board as well, but we'll just use a good average of $200 per hog. So you take them in, you're going to get your meat smoked, you get your bacon sliced, all that type of stuff, and you're going to have that expense. So I say $200 a pop, so that's another $600. So you add that on our total of $611.82, you get $1211.82 as be our total out of pocket. So if you raise 3 hogs the same way we do, and again, following our model, and again, I know that's kind of relative, but this gives you an idea. Your total out of pocket is going to be $1,211.82 to have 3 hogs turned into tasty pork, shrink wrapped and in your freezer. So, okay, so $1,200 outlay. Troy, show us now how you're going to turn that into where it's free or whether you're actually making money. We sell whole and half hogs to individual customers. So they're telling me exactly how they want their whole hog processed or their half hog processed, and they get, you know, the whole hog obviously, or the half, and we process to their specifications and we deliver it all at once. So they're buying in bulk, and we charge a certain price for that. So in this scenario, 3 hogs, obviously you're not going to spend 7 months sludging around and raising hogs and not want to eat some of that bacon yourself. So obviously 1 hog is going in the freezer for yourself. So we take that one off the table. Yeah, that pig is yours. So you're going to sell these 2 other hogs. And if you use our option number 1, you're going to sell those hogs at a per pound price. And that per pound price that we go with is $3.50 for a whole, $4.50 for a half. And that weight is based upon hanging weight. What is hanging weight? Hanging weight is skinned and gutted. So it literally is the pig hanging after it comes off the kill floor. So that is the weight of the pig. Obviously still has bones in it, still has its head on, all those type of things. So that's what the hanging weight is based off of. And if you look at some of the standards, it's 72 to 76% of the total weight, the standing weight of the hog. So you can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about there as far as weight goes. So if we look at that and say, okay, $3.50 per pound hanging weight, what's your hanging weight? Well, this last batch that we just did, my average hanging weight for hogs that we raised over 7 months was 277 pounds was the average hanging. High end was 299, low end was just under 200. So that's a pretty good range. Obviously we had some runs and pasture, they are what they are. They, you know, some come in high, some come in low. So with that shaking out there, a 277 pound hanging weight hog at $3.50 is $969.50 per hog. So if you sold those 2 hogs and they hit the average hanging weight that we have, $969.50 per hog if you sell it at $3.50 per pound hanging. So that is $1,939 is the gross of selling those 2 hogs to 2 customers. So in that situation, in that scenario, you've got to find 2 people to buy those 2 whole hogs that want that much pork. Now again, they may split it with family and friends and all that, that's up to them. But if you find 2 buyers, then you sell those at $3.50 a pound each. You gross $19.39. So when you look at that, okay, $19.39 is my gross. We already determined our cost was $1211.82. We've profited $727.18. That ain't a bad gig for 2 hogs. So obviously, please don't hold me to the fact that 7 months you call me and say, Troy, I did not make $727 with my 2 hogs. Obviously we know there's a lot of variables we're talking about here. Obviously you could have death. You could lose a piglet to death, to predator, to whatever the case may be. You may not get the same yield. Your feed costs may be higher. Maybe in your area, nobody would even think twice about paying $3.50 a pound. Other people may laugh you out of the room if you're trying to sell at $3.50. So obviously do some research in your area, what pork's going for. We've discovered, we're actually today at a indoor farmers market at the Civic Center, which is our big area here locally, and we discovered our pork prices were really low. Doesn't mean I'm going to change anything, but they're really low compared to some of these other pastured hog operations that we've seen. So there, $727 profit, not too bad. So again, a lot of numbers I've just thrown at you there, and you may say, okay, mind's blown. How do we even begin this? Well, that's the whole point of using the graphics here. If you want to come back and kind of flesh that out, then you can back the video up and pause it and kind of look at those numbers. If you're really serious about trying to do some of this stuff, then by all means, go to our website, use the contact form, reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to answer anything the best way I can. Again, this model works for us where we are in West Virginia. These prices the market will bear. I've got great customers, work with them. They know what they're getting. I make sure that I try to do all I can to make sure there's no surprises. So that's what I would recommend is really just start small. But again, to recap, 3 hogs, you're going to keep 1 for yourself, and you're going to sell those other 2. And not only do you get the cost of the feed and everything covered in this profit potential, you're going to be able to maybe put some extra money in your pocket. Well, you may be wondering, okay, Troy, there's one big issue, one big bullet point you left off on cost, and that's time. How do you account for your time invested? So how do you recoup that time dollar-wise? Obviously, time on a farm or a homestead usually is not, we're not lawyers here, so we really can't track an hourly rate. If you do that, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Because then you have to figure out, how do I justify time? How do I say what's worth getting up at dawn, trudging through mud, feeding a pig every single day for the next seven months? So that's kind of tough to quantify that. And so I would say, if you're in it just for the money and you dread this, you're going to hate this gig. You're not going to want to do it. And I would say, don't even think about it. But people that watch our videos seem to be already engaged in homesteading or are actively seeking that lifestyle. So I think they get an idea of what's going to be invested. But again, it's not easy peasy. It's not just like, okay, 7 months later, I've got all this extra cash. And then you say, oh, well, if I can make that much money with 2 hogs, I'm going to get 45 and I'll make even much more. Just remember, anytime you scale anything, that scale is multiplied. If you're going to do more hogs, you're going to obviously do more feed. So if your feed store like us, our feed store is an hour away. So when I go to haul feed for my 22 pigs, I'm hauling 6,000 pounds, 3 tons of feed at a time. That takes a decent piece of equipment. It's a large trailer. Our truck to obviously pull it. I got to store it when I get back. How am I going to feed that out? Well, I have my gravity feeder now, my big bin feeder. All of these things just add. So again, if it's your first time, start with a 3, start small, then figure out how to scale it. And again, if year number 1 is successful for you, you come close to these numbers that we're broadcasting, please don't do year number 2 and go out and get 30 hogs and think you got it. It's going to be just as easy as the first time. So time is not going to be something you're going to necessarily recoup. You figure out if it's worth it or not. If you say, well, I can make $700 doing something else, then go do it. But if you really want to get into raising pork, you want to be able to provide customers some quality meat, you want to be able to provide yourself and your family quality meat. You know where it came from. You had a hand in raising it. You know it didn't get a bunch of garbage. You really want to have cleaner food source there. Then I recommend trying this and doing this model. It'll give the opportunity to see if it works for you. Obviously put a little money in your pocket and obviously put good quality food in your freezer.
Well, we hope you found that information helpful when it comes to raising hogs. If you have any questions, be sure to leave some comments below and we'll be sure to get back, or obviously you can email us.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up.
And also, reminder, just sign up for our e-newsletter and that way it'll get you in for our drawing. Well, that wraps us up for today. Take care.